Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Concerned Citizens Media. I have some news to share with you and a couple of videos for today. Let's start with the news. The American Embassy in Eritrea, Asmara, warned Eritrean Americans and embassy staff to avoid non-essential travel in Asmara, citing security situation in Eritrea. No further details are provided for this embassy warning. Tigray's forces are launching missiles toward Eritrea for Eritrean participation on ongoing war in the Tigray region. There might be also an issue with Eritreans' dissatisfaction and uprising against the dictator President Isaias Afwerki for taking Eritrea into this unwanted war. President Isaias Afwerki diverted the country's freedom and its independence into his personal property. No election, no constitution, no term limits for the officials, and no opposition parties are allowed in the country. Our Abiy Ahmed is attempting and testing Ethiopians to adopt the same style in Ethiopia. So far, he is successful in making Ethiopians to obey his orders, including federal police, the military, the intelligence, and including the parliament members. Everyone is obeying his order and no one is challenging and asking him why. He is firing and hiring whoever he dislikes and likes. Ethiopians should wake up and prevent such dictatorial leadership style from gaining root in the country. Wrong messaging from Abiy Ahmed's war front. Abiy Ahmed and his supporters are telling us that the ongoing war operation on the Tigray region is about enforcing law and order. It is the fight for few outlaws. Abiy Ahmed also told us that this war is not against the Tigrayans. However, the images coming out of the war front depict wrong messaging. Abiy Ahmed soldiers showing their pride in tearing down the Tigrayan flags. Tigrayans paid a heavy price for this symbolic flag to be flown. So, tearing down the flag for which thousands and thousands died for is wrong messaging. The second wrong messaging, and in the contrary to Mr. Abiy Ahmed's public relations speech, is soldiers showing off the asses, referring to former Ethiopian ruler as a Menelik on the back of their t-shirts, plus using the same controversial, questionable, and offensive historical figure on the military vehicles conveys a different messaging. It is attempting to glorify the Amhara nationalism against the Tigrayans and other ethnicities fighting with them. These offensive symbols can damage the unity of the country, and the operation of law and order will not be a successful one. Advancing a different agenda under the pretext of law and order operation will not bring peace and stability in Ethiopia. Messaging coming out of the Abiy Ahmed civilian administration and the military should be reviewed twice before it is distributed to the public through social media. The Tigrayan People Liberation Front, on TPLF, spokesman claims various military victories over Abiy Ahmed's invading forces. The spokesperson said that the TPLF fighters, with strong public support, destroyed tanks, shut down military helicopters, and crushed the enemy soldiers in several fronts. He said that Abiy Ahmed's forces were weakened and dispersed from the front line as a result of the defeat they faced on this battle. He said enemy soldiers' deaths and injuries were uncountable. However, there is no independent report to verify these military victory claims. Both sides eliminated international media from the war front to hide the atrocities, possibly the war crimes happening to the citizens of the same nation. Finally, the transition became smoother for President-elect Joe Biden after several states certified his election wins. President Donald Trump also tweeted about his willingness to facilitate the transfer of power, but he still didn't concede the loss. So President-elect Joe Biden started filling up important cabinet positions. Accordingly, Janet Yellen appointed to lead the Treasury Department, the first for the woman to have such position in the country. Alejandro Mayorkas is appointed to head the Homeland Security, the first Latino American to lead this department. Very essential department that deals on the country's immigration policies and homeland safety. Avril Haines, also first woman to become Director of National Intelligence. Former Secretary of State and Senator John Kerry is appointed as International Climate Czar. Tony Blinken became Secretary of State. Jake Sullivan becomes National Security Advisor, and Linda Thomas, African American, appointed as U.S. Ambassador in the United Nations. So far, Joe Biden's cabinet picks represent the real America's faces. With more to come, we will have a chance to witness the consequences of our voting exercises. We made America an inclusive nation and a global team player. So we may see more inclusive cabinets possibly the first woman, the first African American, or the first African American woman to head different departments. So more is expected, and that is the real America. The America represents all Somalian, Chinese, Vietnamese, Ethiopians, Asians, and Latinos, all included in different cabinet positions. That's interesting, and as he promised, he is doing it thanks to Americans who voted for him to make America inclusive country. Okay, that's all I have for the news from Concerned Citizens Media, but I will share with you a couple of videos. One from British Parliament, and the other one is from United Nations. Both are talking, so many international news are talking, a lot of talking, but no action. Let's listen to the British Parliament. This is a very short video. Then we'll go to the United Nations.
Your permission, I'll answer questions 14, 15 and 16 together. We're very concerned about the conflict in the Tigray region of Ethiopia, both in terms of the humanitarian impact, but also the risk of spillover and spread to the region.
We now have Lawrence Robertson with his question. Lawrence Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Having chaired the all-party group for a long while, I've seen the relative peace that Ethiopia has lived in since 1987. And the last thing that it needs at the moment, following the locusts problem and also COVID, is this situation. Does the Foreign Secretary therefore agree with me that the very best way forward, the only realistic way forward, is to find a peaceful solution to the problems? And will the Foreign Secretary also do everything he can to ensure that aid continues to get to the Tigray people who need it?
Thank my honourable friend, pay tribute to the work that he's done in this regard. I share his concern. I spoke to Prime Minister Abiy on the 10th of November. We've made clear that there needs to be a de-escalation of violence, humanitarian access and protection of civilians. Of course, it's also got all sorts of regional implications, which I've also spoken to the Prime Minister of Sudan and the Foreign Ministers of Egypt and South Africa. This will require a regional but also an international effort to secure peace and protect the humanitarian plight there.
15's withdrawn, so we're going to 16 with Stuart C. MacDonald. Stuart C. MacDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the Foreign Secretary has said, this conflict has implications for the whole region, including Somalia, with Ethiopian troops being pulled out of that country to be redeployed to Tigray. Given reports that President Trump also intends to move troops out of Somalia and the threatening presence there of Al-Shabaab and Islamic State, what discussions has he had with international partners about ensuring Tigray doesn't end up helping to destabilise Somalia too?
Well, he's absolutely right. As the previous honourable member made clear, Ethiopia has been a success story, relative success story lately. And not only is there a real danger for the people of Ethiopia, but there's the risks that he's highlighted of spillover to Sudan, Somalia and Eritrea, which will be very damaging for people in the region, but also for the wider equities we have. As I said, I've spoken to regional leaders. I will speak to the Deputy Prime Minister of Ethiopia soon, and of course we will be engaging with the Americans, and I was in Berlin talking with the E3 and our European colleagues, and we've expressed our concern. We're doing everything we can to bring peace and a de-escalation of the conflict.
Shadow Minister Stimpert.
Mr. Speaker, war and famine in Ethiopia in the 1980s are seared into the memories of the British people and the world. And yet again, we are on the brink of another tragedy for the people of that wonderful country. Hundreds of civilians hacked to death, tens of thousands of refugees, hundreds of thousands cut off from assistance, women and children caught in the violence between rebels, and a government now threatening to shell a city. So can the Foreign Secretary say why it has taken until today for the United Nations Security Council to meet on this? What more are we doing to secure those humanitarian corridors and access for independent human rights monitors? And does he not agree this is just another reason why this would be the wrong time to cut on our 0.7% commitment to humanitarian assistance?
So is Rob.
Well, can I thank the Honourable Gentleman? Can I share his horror at some of the reports of the civilian casualties? We take this incredibly seriously, both energetically and actively in the United Nations, but also let me reassure him that UK funding is already helping those in urgent need of assistance. In Ethiopia specifically, the UK funds the World Food Programme, UNHCR, UNICEF and the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs.
Adam Holloway.
Number 18, sir.
At this time.
The humanitarian situation in Yemen is dire, as my...
Okay, that's British Parliament expressing their concerns, mostly humanitarian concerns, and calling for peaceful, dialogue between the government and the Tigray region. But so far, nothing happening in that concern because Abiy refused, thinking he will be victorious within a short period of time. So international mediation is rejected. As I reported last time, the African nation appointed three very important envoy to end this conflict, but nothing happening because this guy, he must win by force. He must crush them. That's a style of dictatorship. And the negotiation will not be accepted by dictators. Dictators don't like negotiation. They like only military power, crushing. So nothing happening on that regard. And let's see now the United Nations. I'm looking for the United Nations video. Let's see, maybe this one. Yeah, this one.
All right, good afternoon. Hope Brendan, if you guys can hear me, wave. All right. Here we go. Sorry, I lost use of these machines. All right. So just flagging a couple of SG interventions today. The Secretary General spoke by video conference to the third roundtable of renowned economists on the topic of rebirthing the global economy. And the Secretary General told them that we face not only an dangerously provocative and risks placing already vulnerable, frightened civilians in grave danger. Ms. Bachelet said she was also deeply disturbed at the continued communication blackout in Tigray, making it very difficult for civilians to communicate with families. The COVID-19 pandemic has intensified humanitarian and development challenges.
Okay, I couldn't stop it, but it's coming up.
He is also deeply concerned about the continued high levels of violence and that the Afghan people have suffered far too long. The Secretary General urged redoubling of efforts towards an immediate, unconditional ceasefire in order to save lives and prevent the further spread of COVID-19. He said that we will create a conducive He added that this will create a conducive environment for the Afghan peace negotiations in Doha, and he also underscored that the Afghan women have paid a high price in the conflict while still playing a central role in creating a peaceful, inclusive communities with more opportunities for all. Also speaking at the conference was Deborah Lyons, the Secretary to Ethiopia. The High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, today urged parties to the conflict to give clear orders to their forces to spare and protect the civilian population from the effects of hostilities. She added the highly aggressive rhetoric on both sides regarding the fight for the city of Mekelle is dangerously provocative and risks placing already vulnerable, frightened civilians in grave danger. Ms. Bachelet said she was also deeply disturbed at the continued communication back out in Tigray, making it very difficult for civilians to communicate with families and for the UN and our partners to monitor the human rights and humanitarian situation. Her full statement is online, and our humanitarian colleagues are telling us that more than 40,000 Ethiopians have now crossed into Sudan since violence broke out in Tigray. UNHCR and its partners have been able to deliver and distribute life-saving aid, including food, to more people, but the humanitarian response continues to face logistical challenges and remains overstretched as there's not enough shelter capacity to meet growing needs. UNHCR is also moving refugees away from the border, with logistics and distances limiting the number of people that can be transferred. Inside Ethiopia, UNHCR remains concerned about civilians, including displaced populations and aid workers in Tigray. We, along with our partners, are urgently seeking $76 million until January to help 2 million people in Tigray, Afar, and Amhara regions of Ethiopia. And turning to Yemen and the issue of the
Okay,
oil.
as you heard, there's the number of Ethiopian refugees is increasing very rapidly. So now it's like more than 40,000 Ethiopians fled the conflict zone and ran for their life. And the United Nations is expressing its concern every day. I follow it, and they're always concerned about the humanitarian situation, which is good, but and just calling for peaceful dialogue will not be enough. Doesn't have a teeth to bite to force both sides to sit on the table. So that is not happening. Just talk. It's good for humanitarian help, to help the refugees is good. Expressing their concern is okay, but how can we gonna stop the deaths and injuries of Ethiopians because of this conflict? Okay, there is also a little bit in a question and answer part. I try to.
On the phone, and I would add, the Secretary General has also been in touch with President Ramaphosa and is fully backing his efforts. I think it's very important that, as you know, the African Union is going to lead, and that
Ethiopia, please, if I can, a couple of questions. One, the security
starting on November 30th. And tomorrow, Farhan will be in the hot seat. He'll be briefing you virtually from his undisclosed location. And we will have two guests, Natalia Kanem, the Executive Director of UNFPA.
So, Ethiopia, please,
There
if
you
I
go.
can, a couple of questions. One, the Security Council is finally going to discuss the conflict in Ethiopia. What is the Secretary General hoping the Security Council might do?
This is a good sign if they discuss.
We've seen, and we're following the reports of a possible military action around Mekelle with great alarm. The Secretary General is very, very concerned about the impact that will have on civilian population, on our ability to deliver humanitarian aid in an area where it is also almost impossible to do so. And I must add that we've been in touch, we've been fully supportive of the African Union's leading role in trying to diffuse this situation. So from the Council, we would hope to see a clear message calling for de-escalation, calling for protection of civilians, and obviously support for the African Union.
A couple of follow-ups, if I can, and if we could perhaps get an update on the Secretary-General's diplomacy on this issue, who he's been speaking to, because it's pretty clear from his High Commissioner for Human Rights that she is concerned about this highly aggressive rhetoric, and she says that all parties need to give clear and unambiguous orders to spare civilians. Who in the UN, I mean, is it the Secretary-General, is he having these calls? Who is passing these messages to the people of the highest level on both sides?
First of all, I would underscore that we fully back and echo the words used by the High Commissioner for Human Rights. The Secretary General for the last 10 days or so, as you know, has been in touch with various leaders. He'd spoken to Prime Minister Abiy. We have our envoy on the ground, Mr. Nyanga, who's also been on the phone, and I would add the Secretary General has also been in touch with President Ramaphosa and is fully backing his efforts. I think it's very important that, as you know, the African Union is in the lead and that we support their efforts.
My last question on this is Human Rights Watch have put out a statement saying there needs to be an investigation now about discrimination against ethnic Tigrayans and also into the reported purge of ethnic Tigrayan peacekeepers in UN missions. This is something, credit where credit is due, was first reported by Foreign Policy. Can you tell us, have you confirmed that that is taking place, and how concerned are you about it?
Well, I would tell you that we can confirm that a number of three members of the Ethiopian contingent were repatriated from Ethiopia by Ethiopian-backed Addis Ababa from Juba. This was not coordinated with the mission. Our colleagues at the mission are very, very concerned about the situation. Our human rights, the Human Rights Division is locally is following up. There have been strict instructions that have been issued, including that all leaves or return to home country be cleared by the UN's, by the mission's Human Rights Division. Broadly, we're obviously very worried and concerned about the situation, and we're taking it extremely seriously. We're trying to ascertain all the relevant facts, and we've been in touch with the Ethiopian government, including the permanent mission here in New York. I mean, it's important to underscore that all troop contributing countries have obligations when they are part of UN peacekeeping, and those need to be respected. Okay, let's spread the love. Is that Benno behind the mask?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but you can take off your mask because I think we're at a safe distance, you and I.
I think so. Yes. What an honor. I have two questions. The first one is the Secretary General sent a letter to the Security Council that he plans to appoint Mr. Mladenov as Libya envoy. And if I'm not mistaken, by yesterday, Monday afternoon, there should be any return objections, if there were any, to the Secretariat. So was there any, and is the appointment now imminent or not?
You know, we've been talking about this appointment for quite some time, so I'm loath to use qualifiers as to when we will see it. I do not expect to see it to see an informant today. As soon as we have something to announce officially, we will.
And my second question is actually about vaccination. I don't know if anybody asked that question in the last weeks before, but can you tell me what the plans are for?
Do you have any numbers of casualties? Does the MINUSO? We don't hear.
Okay, that's the briefing from the United Nations. They have it mostly every day. I follow them. So anytime they talk about the global issues or concerning Ethiopia, I'll bring it to you. We have to follow. We are part of the international communities, and we have to know what's going on globally. So, which is interesting, they say the Security Council will have a discussion on the situation on Ethiopia, which is a good sign, and we'll see what they say, and what they're gonna do, how they're gonna stop this war between the same nation, and how they're gonna force the prime minister to sit down and talk and to settle this issue. So we'll see that one. So far he refused, and as I said, he wanna crush the Tigrans to show the others this will happen to you if you challenge me. That's what he tried to show. And the Tigrans are used the constitution to elect their own representatives. Legally, they are the winners, really. And this guy tried to use COVID-19 as excuse to extend his power. So they are the winners, but because he got so many guns and the power, he want to crush them, and he want to make them surrender for the Prosperity Party. We will see if it's gonna happen, and I try to show others so that they cannot challenge him, whether in Oromia, Benishangul, Walaita, or wherever, whichever part of that country. So he don't wanna get defeated through negotiation. He wanna defeat through power. And the other thing, the discussion mentioned, targeting Tigrayans because of their ethnicity, not because they did a crime. It has been reported. It is on the global stage. They know it, even though the government claim there is no targeting of Tigrayans, but it is already on the global stage. They know it, it's happening, and removing them from different government positions, searching their homes, searching their properties, shutting their bank accounts, shutting their businesses. So it's clearly Tigrayans are targeted by Abiy Ahmed. So the propaganda speech is different from the practical conducts of this prime minister. He is very serious. He takes revenge in a different form, like he's doing it on Oromia for more than 2 years in the east Wallagga and other areas, including family members who have nothing to do with the politics, but he targeted them. So he's doing it the same thing with the Tigrayans. And if he's successful in this war, Tigrayans will be in a big trouble, like Oromia region. They will be killed and thrown on the bush. That's why they are defending until the end. So he's a tough guy. He's a different guy, and I didn't know he is like this. And most of us enjoyed when he appeared on the stage, and we asked ourselves where this guy was, why he was hiding for a long time. This is a Messiah, but the Messiah became the enemy now, a public enemy number one, and the country is insecure, unstable, and war everywhere, deaths everywhere, and it's very bad under his name. So we'll see how it's gonna be improving in the future, and we'll follow it, and the struggle will continue to bring change in that country, to avoid Ethiopia becoming a one-man show like Eritrea. So all Ethiopians, be aware what is coming in that country. Is the dictatorship is becoming deep-rooted. I repeatedly warning you in different shows, rise up, united, to fight against dictatorship and to create a peaceful, inclusive country for all of us. And there will, the country without human rights abuses and deaths, war, all this, to clear this, to have the united country, a peaceful country. All should avoid our differences and come together and have our own representatives through our votes, not through the excuses of COVID-19 or war or something else. Okay, thank you everyone for listening concerning Citizens Media. I will be back with other news and videos. So long, everyone.